Hello and welcome to another episode of Sportstrology. I'm your guide to the sporty stars, Olivia, and I'm extremely excited to be the first to wish you happy Scorpio season. That's right, it's my favorite time of the year, the spookiest slice of the astrological pie. Scorpio season begins today, October 23rd. I'd like to first wish a happy birthday to my fellow Scorpios who are playing right now. We've got Jalen Ramsey, October 24th, happy birthday. Juan Soto the next day, October 25th. Now that night is Game 3 of the World Series. It's a home game, so I'm sure the DC crowd will make it special for their young star. We've got Jack Eichel, October 28th, happy birthday. Gotta shout out the new Ranger, Artemi Panarin, October 30th. Colin Kaepernick, November 3rd. OBJ, November 5th. Teddy Bridgewater, also November 10th. Now the Saints are playing that day. It's a home game. They're hosting the Falcons. I would expect Teddy to have a big game that day with the power of his solar return behind him on the field, so keep an eye out for that in fantasy. Russell Westbrook is November 12th. Now Russell is sort of the OG of Sportstrology. First got the idea for the show when he had some sort of beef back with Kevin Durant when both of them were in Oklahoma City. I found myself wondering, when is that petty man's birthday? When I found out that he's a Scorpio, it all sort of made sense. Taylor Hall is November 14th, David Ortiz, November 18th. Happy birthday to all of these fantastic Scorpio athletes. So yes, it is that time of year again. Scorpio season means baseball season is coming to a close. The World Series kicked off last night. Game 1 pitching matchup saw Max Scherzer of the Nationals against Jarrett Cole of the Astros. And tonight, Game 2, Steven Strasburg on the mound facing Justin Verlander. Now Strasburg is a Cancer while Verlander is a Pisces, so that's a smart but probably unwitting move by the managers of those teams to put out the two water sign pitchers on the first night of water season. Scorpio season is going to be intense. It's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride for everyone, but among those who will weather it best are water signs. They're used to dealing with that intensity, the emotions, a little bit more than other signs, and as such, these two, regardless of how Game 1 goes, these two are going to make for a great matchup in Game 2. As for a prediction, now the Astros don't have a single Scorpio on their roster. It's an interesting choice. The Nats, however, have a handful, including young slugger Juan Soto, as I mentioned. I think that both these teams have momentum of different kinds, but when it gets intense out there, as it naturally will in a World Series matchup and Scorpio season, the deciding factor may be who can handle the mental aspect, and in that, I'm going to have to go with the Nationals. Because late October truly is one of the best times of the year, the NBA is back this week. I thought we'd take a look at some of the top duos in the league and their astro compatibility. So up first, Russell Westbrook and James Harden, who's a Virgo. So Russell Westbrook, a Scorpio. These two are reuniting in Houston, and the Scorpio-Virgo connection is one that has a lot of potential. It's a great combo. The intensity can match up where others might be overwhelmed by it, but these two can thrive. So there could be a bit of a revenge tour going on, especially when we see them take on their stacked Western Conference rivals. Up next, Joel Embiid, who's a Pisces, and Ben Simmons, a Cancer. So these are both water signs. These two have the potential to connect on an almost eerie level. Water sign relationships are legendary for how they can use their intuition to help each other. They'll just sort of understand each other inherently, and if we see that happen combined with their individual talents in their third season together, we could see the process become the results. Lastly, LeBron, a Capricorn, and Anthony Davis, a Pisces. Now this is probably the most talked about duo going into the season, especially with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George across town on the Clippers. These two signs, Capricorn and Pisces, they operate in just different ways. It's an earth sign and a water sign. And LeBron is a classic Capricorn. Those are some of the hardest working, most talented people on earth, which doesn't mean that Pisces are slackers by any means. It's just their differences are admired by each other, which can lead to a respectful and deepening friendship over time. Pisces softens and respects Capricorn, while Capricorn admires Pisces' considerate and changeable nature. So obviously these two are extreme talents. Their differences in their natal chart will be smoothed over on the court, and if they can use these differences as assets, it could be a very fruitful relationship going forward. Of course, with the new season comes a new moon. The new moon in Scorpio comes on my birthday, October 27th, technically the early hours of October 28th, and it's not necessarily going to be a fun transit. It's opening us up to intense emotions, things we maybe don't want to face, and testing relationship dynamics as well as senses of self. So it sounds scary, but really a new moon, like Mercury Retrograde, which I'll discuss in a minute, a new moon is just a chance for a fresh start. If you choose to accept that challenge, you can see some really beautiful growth. So Sunday Night Football this week will be played under this full moon. It's Packers-Chiefs, so you've got Aaron Rodgers coming off that incredible game last week. He's a Sagittarius, up against Pat Mahomes' backup Matt Moore, who's a Leo. Luckily, both these signs are largely unaffected by the new moon, so astrology shouldn't be a major factor when you're setting your fantasy lineups for those games. Monday Night Football is Dolphins-Steelers. That's a shit show that I don't want to put onto astrology, so good luck dealing with that new moon on your own time. Don't be too concerned when you're setting your lineups for this weekend. Now, Mercury Retrograde is coming up. Mercury Retrograde starts officially on Halloween, though we are already in the shadow period. It's retrograde through Scorpio, so you're going to have conversations and situations from late October rehashed throughout November. So that might be issues in your fantasy lineup that you thought you solved, or injuries that might not be healing quickly, preseason issues that are carrying on into November. Now, what you're going to want to do is really face these issues head on. It can be intimidating. You want to ignore them, but Scorpio is the sign that wants you to go deep and it wants you to face these intense topics. So if you choose to face them, it can be really productive. Try and look at it as a positive situation to go back and, right your wrongs and not something very scary. Of course, you will have your communication issues, your transportation issues. So be aware of those as you would in general, but just go into it with an open mind and you can sort of make it what you want it to be. Have a lovely Scorpio season, everyone. We'll talk soon.